So let's get into the video. So in this video, I will be going over the quadratic equation, which is basically something you would which is something you would run into in algebra and pre-algebra. So what exactly is a quadratic equation? The quadratic equation is f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. This is very important in the study of algebra and is represented on a graph. So this is not a graph. This is just a easy way to visualize this, just in case you didn't get the whatever. Okay, so f of x in word form is function of x. So it's just a fancy way of stating this. So f of x is function of x, and it's just a fancy way of stating this. So f of x is basically substituted for y. It means the same thing. It's just used to look, I guess, more formal. So how is the quadratic equation represented? The quadratic equation is represented as a U shape. It looks like this. Now all parabolas, which is what you call this thing, don't exactly look like this. Some are also scaled downwards and like this, like if you could see my red line, and scaled downwards, and can be either very wide or very narrow. So I'll explain in the next slide. So what is the importance of coefficient A, B, and C? A changes the width of the parabola. Increasing the value of A will make it narrower. So this is, let's say for this A is approximately equal to 3. Decreasing the value of A will make it more wider. So you see how wide this is. So A is probably equal to 1/5 or 0.2. If A is positive, then the parabola will open upwards and have a minimum point. So open upward and have a minimum point. Or if A is negative, then it will be downward opening and have a maximum point. I'll explain that in the next slide. So B changes the axis of symmetry. This is basically the place where the parabola is cut in half and is like being symmetrical on both sides. Increasing B, so increasing the value of B, so it's positive, will cause the parabola to be on the negative side, which is over here on the left of the x-axis. So C is the y-intercept. Not very hard. It's basically just where the parabola touches the y-axis. All right, so what is the maximum and minimum points? The maximum point is the highest point of the parabola, but is only for downward opening parabolas. This means A is negative. So what does that mean? So this is the highest point. This is a downward opening parabola, which means like this big part is facing downwards, and A is negative. So as you can see here, A has to be less than 0. Minimum point, on the other hand, is the lowest point on the parabola and is only for upward opening parabolas, which means A is positive. So A has to be greater than 0, open upwards, which means this part is facing up, and this is the minimum point. Let's go. Standard form. This is the most referred to when people talk about quadratic equation. It is more famous and is used more widely. It is f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. I showed you a photo of that earlier, like right here. Yep, that's that. And that's right. So this can be very useful when you are asked to graph the parabola. Just take a certain value of x and insert it into the equation, and out comes the y value. Now, obviously, you need the value of a, b, and c, but yes, this is a very common way that the parabola is denoted. Factor form. Now, what is factor form? So factor form is 0 is equal to a, x plus r, x plus s. So this is very useful if you're trying to find the root of the parabola. Now, what are the roots? So the roots are the x-intercepts, or basically where the parabola is touching the x-axis. We can either have one root, two intercepts. I mean, we can have one intercept, two intercepts, or 0 intercepts. I'll explain that later. Also, whatever the value for r and s is, the value for x that makes the inside of the parenthesis a 0 is the root of the parabola. So if r is equal to 5, x is equal to negative 5. If s is negative 10, then x is equal to 10. And notice how over here we have a 0. We have this, the y part has to be 0 in order to find the roots of the parabola, or the intercepts. So what is vertex form? So the vertex form is y is equal to a, x minus h to the second power plus k. This can be very useful for finding the vertex of the parabola. Vertex is the minimum or maximum point. Whatever the value of h is, the value of x that makes the parenthesis 0 is the x-coordinate of the vertex. So you know how a coordinate has an x and a y, so that's the x-coordinate of the vertex. Whatever k is the y value of the parenthesis. Of the coordinate. So for example, if h is equal to 5, so we put 5 into this formula over here, the value of x that will make this part of the parenthesis equal to 0 is 5. Therefore, the x-coordinate of the vertex is 5. There is an equation to find the value of h and k, and this is mainly used if you're given standard form and are asked to find the vertex. To find h, use this equation. So h is equal to minus b over 2a, so now you would usually just get a, b, and c on standard form, so that's why you use this. And to find k, use this equation. So k is equal to 4ac minus b squared divided by 4a. So what is the discrete or discriminant of the equation? So the discrete is a way to find out how many roots a parabola has. If you remember earlier, I told you I would explain this. So here we go. So the equation for the discrete, which is denoted as d, is equal to b squared minus 4ac. So this is also given when you have, this is also used when you are given standard form. So if d is greater than 0, then we have two roots. If one root is irrational, which means it's an ongoing decimal, then the other root is also irrational. So if one root is like pi, the other one could be like 1.7865, so on and so forth. But if one root is like 10, the other one could be like 8. So what about now? What about this one over here? What if d is equal to 0? Then we only have one root. So parabola is a perfect square. So what is a perfect square? So x plus 2 to the second power, that's a perfect square because it can be denoted as x plus 2 squared. So now what about this? D is less than 0. Then we have two imaginary roots, which means 0 roots. So two imaginary roots means 0 roots, which means it doesn't touch the x-axis. So in this way, the parabola is floating. One more quick thing. If on a test you are asked to find the roots or the zeros of the equation and are given only the standard form, you can either convert it to factor form, which is this. So you can do this to find the zeros, or you can very easily remember and use this equation. So what is this equation? So x-intercept is equal to minus b plus minus. So notice how there's a plus and a minus. That means you have to go through this equation 2 times, one with plus and one with minus. So x-intercept is equal to minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So yes, that is the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.